Bright sunlight over flat land dotted by shallow-rooted palm trees. It's how we think of Florida's landscape, but from the shadows here is a darker pattern and a deeply rooted nest of extremism. Several suspects arrested in the deadly U.S. Capitol riot are from Florida. Among them, a known organizer of the Proud Boys. The Proud Boys have only been well known a few years, but they share spots on lists with extremist organizations dating back decades, like the Ku Klux Klan.
They're still recruiting the same way now as they were back then, only the tools have changed drastically.
Richard Harris is a professor and pastor in Central Florida, but he was once part of the KKK.
By the time I was 18, they had groomed me to be the second youngest Grand Dragon in the Klan.
A few years thereafter, though, growing into adulthood, he realized he did not belong.
I became aware of how they were twisting the Bible and turning things around.
Once he left, he kept quiet about his past, but when he broke his silence 13 years later to a group of students at a university where he taught, death threats followed from the KKK. He moved from Indiana to Florida to work in a church, and his life changed. He now preaches anti-racism, and he's an associate pastor at Good Hope Missionary Baptist Church in Bartow, where the congregation is mostly African American.
People can change. They can change. So don't give up on anyone, but it's a whole lot better to keep someone from being radicalized than it is to try to de-radicalize them, because that's a long, hard process.
We've seen a number of mass terrorist attacks that have taken place that were very much they were people who were radicalized online.
Cassie Miller is a senior research analyst at the Southern Poverty Law Center. SPLC tracks dozens of hate groups across Florida. A growing amount of far-right mobilization, though, happens outside known groups and online. And as mainstream social media sites enforce policies against dangerous conspiracy theories, users move to what's known as alt-tech sites, which cater to their beliefs.
Florida is one of the places where we see the kind of barrier between extremists and Republicans start to dissolve. And that's something that's really concerning to us.
In Northwest Florida during the 2020 campaign, Proud Boys were at a GOP event, quote, providing security.
We're seeing a growing political influence of the extreme right and the far right.
Brian Hughes lived in Florida before moving to Washington, D.C., where he's the associate director of the Polarization and Extremism Research Innovation Lab, known as PERIL, at American University. PERIL's work is focused on reducing polarization and hate.
If you're an extremist recruiter or propagandist, one of the things you might do is frame yourself as a dangerous truth teller. You know, I'm one of the few people who's willing to stand up to political correctness.
One idea, if people better understand how hate is spread, fewer people may fall into the trap. But for those already caught up in it, the roots may run too deep.
It's like being in a cult. Leaving it is extremely hard.
Matt Lipoli, WESH 2 News.